Hello everyone. Now don't be frightened by all the writing behind me. We're going to go over it all. And it's some pretty simple stuff, okay? So we've got this. Let's delve right into it. As always, Psych Chapter 10, Social Thinking. So lots of definitions here. As we know, Psych part of the MCAT, it's applying all these definitions to different situations in the passages. But here are the definitions that we need to know, okay? So let's go. So first, we have aggression. Aggression is a physical, verbal, nonverbal behavior that can cause harm. Pretty simple. Then we have attachment, which is an emotional bond between two people. So we have different types of attachment, specifically relating to children and caregivers. So we have secure attachment, which requires, so to have a secure attachment, you need a consistent caregiver for the child so that they can develop trust and the child can feel that, okay, you can go and they can go and do something and come back and that caregiver will still be there. So that's a secure attachment where the child feels secure with that relationship. Then we have avoidant attachment, which was when the caregiver has a decreased response to the distressed child. We have an ambivalent attachment, which is when there's an inconsistent caregiver's response to the distressed child. And then there's a disorganized attachment where there's no clear response based on the caregiver's absence. So again, this is all in relation to a child and a caregiver, and I'm going to be going pretty quick through these, so you might even want to slow down the video so you have time to take notes or just make sure you have all of these things in your notes. But let's keep moving. So we have social support and a couple different subcategories of that. So social support is the perception of the reality of that one is cared for by a social network. So that is social support. So we have emotional support, which is listening to, affirming, or empathizing with someone. Then we have esteem support, which is affirming the qualities and the skills of a person. That's esteemed support. And then we have material support, which is providing physical or monetary support. We have informational support, which is providing useful information to a person. Pretty self-explanatory. And then we have network support, which is providing a sense of belonging to a person. So those are all different types of support that we have, or that we can offer somebody. So next we have social behavior here at the bottom in orange. So we have, these are just, general topics in social behavior. We have foraging, which is searching or exploiting food resources. We also have different mating systems. So we have monogamy or polygamy. So monogamy is when, when that mating system consists of having one partner, and then polygamy is when, your mate can have multiple partners. Then we also have something called inclusive fitness theory, which measures the success of an organism based on its number of offspring and how well it can support those offspring. So that is inclusive fitness theory. Okay, see, not so bad, right? It's already done one half of the board, and I'm sure y'all got all those definitions. A lot of them were self-explanatory, but we might have some new ones over here, so let's keep going. So first we have attribution theory, which is the tendency for an individual to infer the cause of someone else's behavior. And so we have dispositional attribution, which is, saying that they're acting this way because of an internal cause. They're acting this way because they're selfish. They're acting this way because they're a very kind person, or, things like that, really attributing to someone's character. And then we have situational attribution, which is when we are saying the cause of someone else's behavior is due to the situation. So, they failed their test because they had a bad teacher, or they were upset today, not because, they are struggling emotionally, personally, but because you know, their mom yelled at them before they got to school, or things like that. So we're looking at it, the external causes when it comes to situational attributions, okay? Then we have implicit personality theory, which is just saying that the process of creating assumptions about someone. So first you meet them, you pick up on certain characteristics, and then you assume traits about that person just based on that. We have the halo effect, which is the judgment of an individual's character is affected by the overall impression of that person. And I find this one kind of easy to remember. You know, if you have let's say you have a classroom of kids, and one kid made a very good first impression on you, and you know, you really love this kid, and so now in your eyes they, you know, have a halo around them. They're an angel, they're perfect. So the other things that they do, you know, those characteristics or those individual moments of behavior, you know, the way you interpret those is affected by your overall impression of that person. You know, so if they do something wrong, you know, if it was just related on that specific action, you might be a little more angry, or, you know, something like that. But because this person has, you know, a halo in your eyes, you see what they did as not as bad, or, you know, it's an accident or something like that. So that's the halo effect. Then we have the just world hypothesis, which is the belief that good things happen to good people and bad things happen to bad people. The just world hypothesis. Then we have the self-serving bias, which I think is pretty interesting, but it's when one believes that when we all attribute our own success to internal factors, but our failures, we attribute them to external factors. So, you know, if you get an A on this test, it's, wow, I'm so smart, I deserve this, I studied, and things like that. Things for yourself, internal factors. But then if we failed that test, we would have said, you know, my teacher didn't teach me these concepts, and you know, it's their fault, not mine. So, or my mom asked me to clean my room yesterday instead of study. So things like that is where we attribute the failures to external factors. But if it was a successful thing, we think it has to do with ourselves. So next we have the correspondent inference theory, which looks at the intentionality of someone's behavior, and that, you know, if they're trying to help us or if they're trying to hurt us, we form a dispositional attribution about that person. So if they do something that helps us and we know the intention was to help us, we're going to think, you know, that, oh, they're, you know, a kind person, so empathetic and things like that. But if they do something that tries to hurt us, we're going to make a dispositional attribution and say they're a mean person, they're a rude person, they're selfish. Instead of, you know, looking at any type of situational causes, we make the dispositional attributions based on our perceived intentionality of their behavior. Then we have the actor-observer bias, which is the tendency to attribute our own actions as external causes and other actions as dispositional. So I'm trying to think of an example like that on the spot. Okay, so I know I keep using this test example, but so for example, you know, I did poorly on this test because my mom asked me to study last night, and I did poorly on this test because my mom asked me to clean the house instead of study last night. But my friend did poorly because they're stupid. That's saying that our actions have to do with an external cause, and somebody else's actions has to do with an internal cause of how they are. We have the primacy effect, which is just, you know, the belief in the importance of first impressions and how the first impression leaves the biggest impression compared to subsequent interactions with somebody. Then we have the recency effect, which states that the most recent information about someone is the most important when forming an impression about them. Again, self-explanatory. And then this one here is the reliance on central traits. So this is the tendency to organize the perception of others based on character traits that are important to us as the perceiver. Okay? So for example, if respect is something that's really important to me, the perceiver, then I'm going to look at someone else and say, wow, like they are very respectful. This is a really great person because that trait is important to me. And we would organize our perception of them based on these traits. Or, you know, let's say, I can't really think of anything else, but let's say, you know, being funny is a really important trait to me. You know, other people might recognize different characteristics about this person, but I could say that person wasn't very funny, so that's at the top of my list of kind of my perception of them is based on my own importance of characteristics that I'm now evaluating somebody else on. These criteria, for example. Okay, so now we have a stereotype, which is making attitudes or perceptions of somebody or a group based on limited and superficial beliefs, okay, and information. So this can lead to someone confirming to these stereotypes, and that has to do with stereotype threat, which is the anxiety about conforming to a stereotype. Then we have prejudice, which is defined as a positive or negative attitude before having an actual experience with somebody, a group, a thing, anything like that. So it's when you have a positive or negative attitude towards them or towards, you know, whatever it is, before you have any experience directly with them. Then we have discrimination, which is when prejudice attitudes cause an individual to be treated different. So that's when you're acting on these prejudice attitudes. And then we have ethnocentrism, which is making judgments of someone else's culture based on your own culture. So that one, a lot of these, like I said, are self-explanatory. I know that was a lot of information, but hopefully all of it made sense. If you have any questions or comments, put it in down below, and we will see you in our next video.